We are having Mr. Jerry Gidel back to Connected Farmer to talk about the week's prices on corn and soybeans, the weekly sales of both corn and soybeans, and yet the weather in South America. Right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So, Jerry, how are you today? What do you think explains the prices we are closing today, the week?
Well, we've had some very impressive closes today. There's no doubt about that, Lewis. The beans closing over $12. Actually, they did that yesterday, and then they followed through again today with some more strength here in the nearby prices here at the Chicago Board of Trade. Corn also moved above its previous highs in the March contract today, in sympathy to some extent, but in general here, the data that we had this week on demand, and then also the general uncertainty of how the South American crops are going to turn out. There's lots of more. A lot of people are starting to shave back their estimates for down there.
Yes, and what about the $12 mark?
Well, that was really the factor here that's helped us the last 2 days on the technical type of things. I think to some extent, some of the data we had earlier this week with the NOPA crush that came out on Tuesday, which came in on the high side of expectations, and then once you put in the remaining processors in the U.S. that are not affiliated with that association, ends up that it looks like that we're going to have another record level, and does kind of suggest that the USDA's expectations for this whole year have already kind of been met in the first 2 or 3 months of the U.S. crush. So we have to be the same as last year, which makes people nervous. There's no doubt about that. And over on the exports that we had there on Thursday morning were also very positive type things. Now, to some extent, that's news that's already out the door, and we have to keep going with those kind of trends. And that because we had over 75 million kind of number there on corn, and 33 million bushels of export sales in beans, and both those are on the high side of expectations. So that's definitely encouraging factors. But you put that together with the uncertainties of South American production prospects, and the markets started bubbling, and then even with volumes relatively low here, and that's what usually happens here during the holiday period here in the U.S. or even around the world, everybody kind of is kind of backing off on their trading. They're putting their stops in, things of that nature. And I think that's part of what happened today or this last few days is that some of those stops might have been activated on people that had sold things and then had to stop above $12. Why $12? Because that's the number that we've had in the past, back in past history, and that. And so once that happened, the mechanics of trading sometimes takes over on prices, and I think, but it's there's reasons for it. There's no doubt about it. The uncertainties of what can happen in South America could make a huge difference here in the Chinese situation and what they do and stuff like that. We've even heard some very interesting commentary here mid to late week about the Chinese and other buyers thinking that they should be switching some of their what they call optional origin purchases from South America up to the U.S. because of the fact that maybe the supplies, and most likely it's going to be tough to get a lot of soybeans available to ship out in the month of February here. And so that's also making that 2.2 billion USDA estimate kind of subject at this point.
How much of a play do you think the demand data had on the prices this week?
Oh, the data is definitely the fundamentals of the market are the general direction of what's going on and the uncertainties we have, because the fact that well, one of the things that was noted there yesterday was that we were basically at 90% of our projection for the year. That's only 10% with 9 months to go. That's an interesting dilemma. From there, that doesn't mean that everything that's put on an export sale will be shipped. But the thing is also interesting is that we've already in the first quarter of this year, when you start looking at how much happened between September and November, we shipped out actually just along with some adjustments in that. I say the number is going to be 1.1 billion bushels. That's half the number in 3 months. So you put that in there on the soybeans. That's the one that's causing everybody the nervousness. Soybeans and protein are always the one that grabs people's attention and grabs the world's attention, because protein is king. There's just no doubt about it. We can find lots of starches to feed and eat, but brain food is always important.
Now, on the weather side, I spoke with a meteorologist from the Agronomic Institute of Paraná and the state of Paraná in Brazil. And she said that the yields of soybeans won't be lower during this crop season, but there will be a huge delay for the safrinha corn, the second corn crop in that state. And yet,
Yeah.
in Argentina, there are some rain forecasts for the coming week.
Yeah, well, we've had Argentina is, as I said, was kind of where the focus is maybe switched to the short term here. How much of that rain comes? Because by all indications right now, the bulk or the first crop corn, the corn was planted in somewhat what you call the summertime things, and then there's of course the second crop corn that comes after wheat and after the soybeans in that. It's really in pollination right now, and so this rain is coming is going to be quite important to what its yields turns out to be. And then at this point, I've heard commentary on the wires at least that the Cordoba conditions out there west of Buenos Aires have got to the point where they've stopped planting soybeans until they get that rain. Now, the problem is that a half an inch to an inch in our terminologies, I think that's about 20 to 25 millimeters of rain. That might help, a week, 10 days? It's not going to help forever. You got to keep on going. And the current forecast is that after this rain event, between here and Christmas, will be dry again. And so, and interesting, Paraná is a very important area in Brazil, of course, and to some extent, the brains in that area have not been as, I'd have to say, spotty. There's a little more consistency there. Actually, between the Paraná and Rio Grande do Sul, probably Rio Grande's been a little bit tougher on the moisture situation. And then, as we said, Mato Grosso and Goiás and Minas Gerais have been not so, it's been a lot more variable up there. And that's the real interesting thing about it. And as somebody's pointed out, from September to December, we're talking about 40, 50 years worth of really, the average rainfall is down at the bottom. And I don't know how that impacts a place that has rains on a pretty consistent basis every week versus not having them. U.S., we have a certain quality of black dirt that holds moisture, and we can go ahead and still have last year's crop still got hurt by the dry weather, but it could have been worse. Right now, we're talking about a 50 bushel bean crop, even with the fact that the weather wasn't ideal here in the U.S. But the problem is that lots of unknowns between now and harvest starting in February and March. And the longer term pull on corn is really the big unknown. You're exactly right. Talking worries about that factor out there.
What are you seeing on the energy side?
Well, the energy sides have really picked up here as from the standpoint of the world prices, and that lots of optimism about the coronavirus vaccines and that type of thing. I guess I'm a little gun shy in the energy world about that really happening as quickly as maybe the crude oil prices around the world are at this point. I kind of feel like that the ethanol world kind of ramped up here in the U.S. Up until this last week, and then it kind of tumbled back. In reality of the fact that that we are, like most of the world, going through a very tough little period here, and that might last another it could be 6 or 8 weeks here of this whole I don't know, third or fourth ramp, whatever this might be, depending on where you're at, and until we get more people vaccinated. So I'd have to say that both of those are going to be a little bit of a drag here on corn and energy prices and ethanol prices going forward. The one twist of this thing is that part of the reason soybeans have been very, very strong has also been the oil component. Traditionally, you have meal, which is for feed. And you also have soybean oil, or veg oils in general, which that's human consumption right there. Everybody fries things, everybody uses things, and that's hugely important and we've had new highs in palm oil this week, new highs in bean oil. Both of those are highly important, and that's the other factor that may be added to the soybeans rally that we've had the last few days from there.
And so what do you conclude, Mr. Gidel?
Well, I have to say right now that we've got to be prepared that this market still could be quite volatile. And even at this point, during a time when they're traditionally pretty quiet markets, I think the soybeans are going to still have some legs here as long as we stay above $12. And we could actually end up making a push to the $12.50 or maybe as high as $12.90. That's interesting. That $13 is the halfway back from the prices way back in 2012. And that versus these last summer lows. On the corn side, the previous highs of a couple of years ago when we had the flooding issues in the U.S. Around 450 to 460 is, I think, one of the potential opportunities. Will it be next week or will it be the week after? Corn is going to be a little slower, but the issues in corn are just as interesting as they are in beans.
Much appreciated, Jerry. Thanks a lot.
You bet. And you have a great holiday. And we'll be talking before the holiday, actually. I think we're going to do it next Wednesday. So we'll look forward to more conversation.
Thank you.